Welcome back to another programming video. Today's topic is error handling. We are covering the last chapter of our Python video series, file handling. Without wasting further time, let's jump straight into it. Now, this is the layout for today's video. And what is error handling? Basically, we try to prevent our program from stopping because something went wrong, either it's a file reading or it's a file writing, or whatever it is that we've implemented within our code logic in our Python file or module. So the way we go about doing that is by using a well-established way, which I'm going to show you now. But before we get there, let me first run code. This one you're quite familiar with, and if you're not, I would suggest that you watch the previous video on reading from a file. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to read from a file that doesn't exist, and you can see the name of the file here is missing.txt. And if you look at my folder, there is no missing.txt file, and I'm using a reading mode, hence why the letter R. So, and I'm trying to load the file into a variable called file, and this name is at random. So you can give it any name you want, but just make sure you reference it further down if you decide to use it. So I'm loading that into a variable called file of type text IO wrapper, and the expected value is basically an error because the file doesn't exist. Now I've also added a line here, print, where I'm just writing program reached the end, just to show you that if when there is no error handling in your program, basically your code stops. So it doesn't even bother reading anything that happens after that. Now, in my case, as a programmer, I do not want my program to stop in the scenario. There are scenarios where you may want that to happen, and that's okay. But in this scenario, for the purpose of demonstrating the error handling, I do not want my program to stop. So first, I'm going to run this code, and we should get an error. And as you can see, it highlights the file name where the error occurred, the line where the error occurred, as well as the type of error that it encountered. Now, I don't want this, and you can see this last line is not even right. So, and that's not the intention. So how do we go about doing that? So we use a keyword called try. So try and colon, and then you enter, and then in between and in the space there, and then you use another keyword called except, except, and then you put a colon, and that's so in between the try and except, that's where you give Python the code that you think is most likely to throw an error. So in our case, we already have one, so I'm just gonna copy that and add it right here. So, and I'm gonna fix this indentation, and this is the code that is giving us an error, and I want something to be printed. So I'm gonna say if an exception occur, and by the way, this except means if any error occur, I want you to write this specific message. So I'm gonna say print, and I'm gonna do that and just say error and exclamation mark, and that's just what it is. So, and because we don't need this anymore, I'm gonna comment that out, clear my terminal, and rerun the code. Now, what do you see? Instead of having that long line and error file name, and so we just have a graceful message being printed out because Python detected that there is an error that occurred, and it goes ahead and writes the program reached the end, showing that my program did not stop at all. So now this is how you handle errors. Something that you may also want to consider in this scenario, you may not be interested on any error, because the way this try and except look at the moment, it basically catches any error that occur, including the one that we had earlier on, that was file not found error. So, and that is the case that I want to cover. So assuming now that you're not interested in catching every error. So any other error can stop, but the one specific one error, you just want to print the message and let the code run. So if you want to be specific about which error you're really interested in, then you can go about using the file not found error, which is what you saw earlier on when we run the code, and Python will only catch that. And if that happens, then you can maybe say, instead of saying error, which is very generic, you can say file not found, file not found. And this is basically clear enough. And if someone else is maybe troubleshooting, or another programmer is going through the code, or depending either you're writing this to a file, it makes sense. It's very direct, you know how to handle it, and you also give a specific task to Python in terms of what exactly it is that you're looking for. And like I said, once again, when you're programming, you need to think ahead, and you also want to anticipate certain types of errors and plan for that. And also think, well, this is maybe critical to my code, this is not critical to my code. So in my case, a file not found is not critical. I just want the code to keep on running. And if anything else, Python will stop the code, and that becomes very important to my logic. So those are the things that you want to plan ahead and think and anticipate. So if you are maybe interested in any other exception, you can add another one right after it and specify maybe a permission error, for example, and do the same thing once again. Implement the logic that you want, print, and maybe say permission error, and just write permission error, and then that's it. So if your file has a permission issue, then Python will handle it and throw it the message as suggested, and your program will carry on running. So at a nutshell, that is what error handling is in the context of file handling. I hope that you've learned something new today. Until next time, keep well. Bye-bye.